And greetings. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He's Todd Erzin. That over there is something called an Aaron McIntyre. We are here alongside all of you. Let us know who you are, of course, via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can email the program, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Steve Deace Show. Over on MeWe, Parler, and Gab, look for my name, Steve Deace, there. And if you're looking for clips of the program, go to rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. Again, that's rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. We've got a jam-packed Tuesday lined up for you. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Marty Makary from Johns Hopkins University will join us. Also a frequent Fauci critic, the guy that predicted back in the winter that we were on the verge of a herd immunity threshold in the U.S., looking at the data by April or May, and it looks like he's turned out to be correct about that. We'll talk to Dr. Makary about where things stand in the fight against COVID and coronavirus coming up at the bottom of the hour. Speaking of that fight, next hour, we continue our ongoing series looking at our best-selling book, Faucian Bargain, the most powerful and dangerous bureaucrat in American history, with fake news or not. And wouldn't you know, it is just serendipitous timing. This week's chapter discussion is about the chapter titled The Wuhan Lab. We did not plan that. We just are doing these in the order they were written in the book, and it just so happened that this week, that's the chapter. And then for Pop Culture Tuesday, did you finish the documentary, by the way?
I did.
So you did do it. Okay, Aaron, you've watched. Well, you're the one that told me about it, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I was told by one of our listeners about it as well.
Right. The three of us have watched a phenomenal, well, at least I think it is anyway, a phenomenal documentary on Netflix, The Sons of Sam. We're going to break down our thoughts on this four-part documentary, which is why I'm kind of surprised you finished it, because anytime something is like more than 2 parts, you always come back to me with, well, how long is this? How many parts is this, right?
If it's more than 2 parts about aliens, that's usually
okay. All right. Okay.
Yes.
But serial killers, they could have just kept doing this one.
You had me.
All right. Had you at hello. Gotcha. Okay. In fact, this time when you asked me how many parts, it's because you wanted more, right? You wanted more parts.
It was really good.
Yeah. It's very well done, but I think it has a fascinating message or look at what happens when those who are caught up in the spirit of the age without realizing it have to come face to face with actual evil. How do they compute that? How do they translate that? And we'll get into that coming up in our conversation with Pop Culture Tuesday, next hour of the show. But before we get to all of those zany hijinks, of course, here is Aaron's rundown, which one of our mucky mucks here at the Blaze informed me last night via text. He described it as, quote, legendary.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Pressure.
Which, of course, I'm fine with that now because Aaron's contract has been renewed, so I owe him nothing more, no matter how much better he gets for the foreseeable future. But here is Aaron's legendary rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Kamala Immigration and the Border, oh my. Vice President Kamala Harris was in Guatemala yesterday, where she said this.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
One place she hasn't been yet is the U.S.-Mexico border, and she was asked about it by NBC News' Lester Holt.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Learning Spanish today. Today's phrase is, In other news from the administration, President Joe Biden's 2022 budget proposal has replaced the word mother with birthing people. In another win for organizations like Evangelicals for Biden, sections of the budget include paragraphs like this, quote, the United States has the highest maternal mortality rate among developed nations, with an unacceptably high mortality rate for Black, American, Indian, Alaska Native, and other women of color. before finishing the paragraph by calling the aforementioned groups, quote-unquote, birthing people. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia made waves this weekend when he announced he won't be backing his own party's effort to enact sweeping federal election reform. South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, your thoughts?
If we're not careful, the greatest democracy on the face of the earth, will go the way of the Roman Empire. The history is very clear.
Checking in on the UK, where they are continuing to freak out over a supposed surge in cases featuring the so-called Delta coronavirus variant. A new YouGov survey of the British shows the majority of those polled think coronavirus restrictions in the country should remain in place. 71% of the population believes masks should still be required to be worn in public. 55% believe limits on large events should stay in place as well. This poor Brit just doesn't understand.
I was doing some gardening today, right, and I just started cracking up for no reason on my own, and I just thought that it's the same reoccurring thing that makes me laugh. There is people, yeah, queuing up, right, to be poisoned with some up genetic technology that is still in trial, that no one has any clue what damage it's going to do to them, and they're doing it for their health. Oh man, it's so twisted. It's so twisted. You know, imagine you woke up from a coma for 5 years of a coma and you walked around now and you just realised, what the f is going on? Everyone's walking around with a muzzle, yeah, stopping themselves breathing for their health.
Back stateside, the Convention of States commissioned a poll carried out by the Trafalgar Group looking at the issue of schools and vaccinations. The poll found overall 64% of respondents believe parents should be the ones making the decision about whether vaccinations should be required in their local school. Nearly half of Democrats agree with that assessment, while 83% of Republicans agree that parents should be the ones making that decision. Moving on, our parent company Blaze Media made a huge announcement today. Former Fox Sports personality and syndicated columnist Jason Whitlock is joining our network to launch a new show. Whitlock greeted the network with a powerful op-ed titled "Faith Conquers Fear, Powers the American Dream, and Fuels My Blaze Media Project." I'd encourage everyone to go and read that. Whitlock says his new show is, quote, dedicated to pushing back against the corporate-supported, systematic effort to undermine America through racial division and fear. He goes on to say, quote, I joined Blaze Media because I want to partner with people who wouldn't look at me funny when I referred to Jesus as a part of my journalistic worldview and platform. In completely unrelated news, Mara Gay of the New York Times editorial board went on MSNBC this morning to share her emotional scars at some of the sights and sounds she saw on Long Island over the weekend.
And I was really disturbed. I saw, dozens and dozens of pickup trucks with, explicatives against Joe Biden on the back of them, Trump flags, and some cases just dozens of American flags, which is also just disturbing.
And finally, filmmaker Ami Horowitz took to the streets of New York City recently for the Daily Wire to ask New Yorkers why they're vaccinated and wearing a mask outside.
Why are you wearing a mask outside?
It feels weird not to. I just like it. I got used to it. I don't mind wearing it. I guess I'm just used to it, I guess.
I just have it on. I forgot it was on. You forgot it was on? Are you vaccinated? Why are you wearing a mask outside? What's your thought process? No comment.
I feel like I won't take off my mask until everybody does. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We haven't been very
role modeling, right?
I mean, it's just there's a lot of anxieties with taking the mask off, for the first time. So it's
because
probably,
it's been so long.
Yeah, it's like a social anxiety at this point.
And that's what happened while we were away.
The American Academy of Witch Doctors. I'm sorry. Voodoo shaman. No. Pediatricians. I think that's actually what we call them these days. In the past, they were known as voodoo shaman and witch doctors. Today, we call them pediatricians. Is urging your children to still wear these useless Chinese face diapers that will do nothing for them because they are neither victims nor vectors of this virus. All data points this out. It will do nothing for them, except probably give them strep throat as they re-inhale all of their bacteria and stifle their God-given filtration system for no reason at all, other than to assuage the fears of these losers these spirit of the age acolytes that Aaron just highlighted at the end of his montage. Here's what you can do about it. If you belong to a district or in a state, New York State said on Friday they were getting rid of the masks. Now they're saying they're going to stay, right? If you just want to exempt yourself from this, you want an option, check out our friends over at Freedom Project Academy. They have mastered the art of online, in-person learning, classical curriculum with a Judeo-Christian emphasis that also emphasizes critical thinking, not indoctrination, mastery of subject matter, not leftist propaganda and spirit of the age psychobabble. If you want to raise a critical thinker, someone who can be capable of self-governing when it comes time to leave the nest, hell, actually leave your nest. How about them apples? Okay. I can speak firsthand. My own son has done this for several years in the past. I know the people who founded and maintain this school would highly recommend it. Go online for free and just get an information packet and see if it's right for you. Freedom Project Academy, go to their website for Freedom Project Academy at freedomforschool.com. That's freedomforschool.com. Coming up in the overtime today, I believe you are losing the argument if you continue maintaining we are the only intelligent life in the universe. As Aaron's montage today clearly indicates, you're losing that argument. That argument's losing. It's not winning. It's clearly not winning. Todd, that is your argument, I believe, correct?
Regarding aliens, I don't know what my argument is anymore.
See, progress is being made. That the argument if we are the only intelligent life in the universe at this point in time, may the trumpet sound nigh. Okay? We gave it our best shot down here. It's clearly not going to work out. Call it in. Call it in. Make the call. Make the call. But we will be debating aliens because we asked our Twitter following what they thought the most likely explanation for all of these confirmed UFO reports now, what the most likely explanation for this phenomenon is. We gave you 4 options because that's all Twitter would give us. And the results are pretty split, actually, amongst all 4. We're going to debate those findings and discuss them in our overtime today. 2 weeks from tomorrow, by the way, is the deadline for the Department of Defense for the intelligence community to release all of its findings going back decades on UFOs, according to the budget deal that President Trump signed last December, which contained an amendment placed there by Senator Marco Rubio, giving the intelligence community, I think it was 187 days or something, in order to come forth with all of that material. That deadline is 2 weeks from tomorrow, June the 23rd. So we will discuss that today in our overtime, what you believe the most likely explanation is. All right, and here a couple of things. I love you guys and all the feedback I get. Number one, I got to tell you up front, unless it's a name I recognize and it's got more than 3 paragraphs, chances are, unless you can tell me something gripping in the first paragraph, I'm hitting the eject. I just get too many emails, and I can't devote that level of time. I'm sorry. So I hate to go all Bill O'Reilly here, man, from back in the day, but keep it pithy if you can. Number 2, whenever this subject comes up, 38 of you, sometimes 46, maybe even 55, will email me a link to the exact same podcast describing why it is definitive that these alien sightings are demons. I have received this link now at least 666 times. I know you're there. I'm feeling you. Okay. So now that I'm teasing this, I'm trying to save at least 14 of you an email. Okay. I got it. Okay. We will get into that angle of it too today in the overtime at blazetv.com/Deace. Don't tell me you're not excited, Erzin.
Well, it gives me pleasure that at least you're being spammed like that. At least because if you're going to make us do this, you need to have a boomerang effect. Yes,
it's the small victories.
Yes,
in
it
life.
is.
I'm not fabricating this. It's in the news all the time. Okay.
Marco Rubio, you did this to us.
That's right. All right, blazetv.com/Deace is where you can go. We will record that overtime right after today's show for you, and then you'll be able to watch it if you're a subscriber to Blaze TV right there at blazetv.com/Deace. And if you're not yet one, that is where you can become one for a discount today so you don't miss it. as Todd moves a little bit more off of his previously firm stance, we are alone, because he too just watched Aaron's montage and is now beginning to contemplate that this could just all be a trial run for somebody superior in the cosmos to us. All right. So we'll get into that today at blazetv.com/Deace. All right, let's get to what is inside of Aaron's montage. Do you know how many Republicans who have ever thought for at least 10 seconds about being president of the United States one day, when they saw that Kamala Harris video, do you know how many of them are cursing Donald Trump in the ground he walks on right now? Get the bleep out of the way, dude. Okay? Because
I have never been more wrong about anybody in political life.
Hold on. No. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know. I didn't say the name.
No,
I know.
There is,
that's as far as
on
I know.
our program, we neither confirm nor deny that we ever made any affirmative comments
I just said
about her as a primary candidate a few years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. We have memory hold them.
I have made up for that, though. In April of last year, I think I predicted that Kamala Harris would be Joe Biden's eventual running mate, and I was right. So I made up for the rest of the mediocrity.
That's the only official statement we have made on the record on this program that we will acknowledge, by the way. But that's the only official statement we have made about her future political prospects until now.
She's insane.
That's the person who had to drop out before Iowa, who couldn't get above 1 or 2% in her own party's national polling, and whose only claim to fame was once sort of alleging in very strong words without directly saying it that Joe Biden, her now boss, is a racist, right? There is no talent there. None. No, there is no ability there. No political ability there. Anybody who's ever considered being president in the Republican Party for 5 seconds is like hoping at this point Mrs. Trump steps in, Barron, the teenage son, steps in and says, "Pops, no, okay." God sends him into the wilderness like he did once Nebuchadnezzar for a period of time. Somebody does something, because this is the opportunity of a lifetime. If you have ever thought as a Republican, I think I could do this presidential thing, your odds of beating her in a general, I think, are actually higher than probably most of you winning the primary, just because there'll be more candidates in that. I mean, if at this point in time, given Biden's health, if Trump at any point decides I can't do it, or let's face it, he's pushing 80, right? Health gets in the way any day for anybody. Your name could be Donald Trump. Your name could be Donald Jones. You are one, I've fallen and I can't get up. Where's my life alert away at 78 from shutting life down to what you're used to we're doing at 58 and 68, right? That's just gravity, man. That's just the ways of the universe, okay? Something short of that. Age finally stepping in, somebody in the family like, we can't do this to ourselves again. Short of that, this guy's going to block you from the opportunity for the closest thing you could probably get. I mean, listen, just being on the ballot, she gets 40-something% of the popular vote, right? Just being on the ballot, she gets, 150, 180 electoral college votes just because of the balkanization in the country, right? But given the balkanization in the country, she's about the closest thing you're going to come up with as a layup politically. And I don't just mean this in the Willie Brown sense of the term, okay? I mean, if you can't beat that, there ain't enough voter fraud in America, folks. No, there's not. I'm sure, but they will have to. I mean, they're going to have to go back, pardon the pun, for sloppy seconds of mail-in ballots. We'll be doing mail-in dumps there in Milwaukee County at Thanksgiving. We found more. She still trails, but the voting's not over yet, okay? That's not. If that's happening, if that is happening, never mind. It's going to happen because it's the worst.
There you go. You buried the lead.
The worst outcome to everything is what happens. That's what's going to happen. You know what? You want to know what the worst outcome is? Let me tell you what the worst outcome is. Worst outcome. I shouldn't even say it. You know what? I'm going to say it out loud so that it won't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I say it today on June 8th, this won't occur. Trump runs again. No one else runs. He completely stymies and thwarts anybody else that everybody's all excited about, Ron DeSantis, from ever getting in the race. Okay? But like puts DeSantis on his ticket. And then suddenly age or something creeps in. Now he starts getting forgetful. He starts behaving like he's 80. Biden resigns. Kamala becomes the nominee and loses to Kamala Harris with DeSantis on the ticket. I'm done. Are you kidding me? Is that the worst? That's like the worst that can happen. Dementia on the left is now
dementia on the right, and their beards have grown longer overnight. Is that what you're saying?
That's the worst outcome that could occur here. Which means bet your house. That's your best outcome. That's the worst. That's the worst realistic outcome. Okay, I mean, like the worst outcome is like a meteor. The worst realistic outcome is probably that.
You are hanging on by a very thin thread, my friend. And I dig that about you.
Is the worst outcome a meteor, though?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Because back in 2016...
Let's ask the birthing people what they think. They've got intuition or something, right?
This world is so stupid.
Well, I mean, it's just... The Trafalgar poll, the splits of that poll. All right, it's time for the verdict. The new Built Bar birthday cake specialty flavor. I brought one in yesterday and let Todd try it. Now, just to let everybody know, as much as I love Built Bar, birthday cake is not a go-to flavor for me, like in general. I am the ugly American, so you know I prefer Taco Bell to authentic Mexican food. I prefer Stovetop to your homemade stuffing at Thanksgiving. And I like Costco white trash cake more than the fancy, cakes with the butter frosting, because I really prefer like the whipped frosting we just buy for $1.09 on the store shelves over the fancy butter frosting, and that's what Costco uses. So maybe I'm not the ugly American. Maybe I'm just white trash. Is that possible? I could just be that.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, and I'll own that, as a matter of fact, okay? So Built Bar is out with the birthday cake flavor. Not a go-to for me. I got to tell you, though, I think it's phenomenal. You tried it, and you can even taste like butter cake frosting texture in there. But you tried it. This is a go-to flavor for you, Todd. So what do you think?
Well, it wasn't so much a go-to flavor. I like birthday cake, but it's not anybody's like... There's no birthday cake product other than actual birthday cake that people like.
Yeah, reclamating it's hard.
And I just thought, you guys have had so much success. Why are you just spitting in the wind like this? And you did it. You magnificent SOBs. You did it again.
You put that thing down in about 2.5 bites, I saw, without hesitation, when I brought it in yesterday. So if you want to try the new Built Bar flavor of birthday cake, or there's another one coming called Grasshopper Cookie that I don't think they have formally announced yet that they've let me sample, that is phenomenal. Okay. Get 15% off. It's the best protein bar you have ever had. Low carb, low sugar, low calorie, fits into all three of those healthy lifestyles, and all three of them at the exact same time. In fact, I mean, the bar I gave you yesterday is 150 calories. That is it. All right. So 15% off when you go to builtbar.com, B-U-I-L-T, builtbar.com. Use my last name, Deace, as your promo code to get 15% off today at builtbar.com. The name of the book is The Price We Pay, What Broke American Healthcare and How to Fix It. Dr. Marty Makary from Johns Hopkins University is the author, and he's also no friend of Fauci's, which means he is welcome here anytime. Marty, it is good to have you with us. How are you?
Good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
So, Marty, I want to, before we get into the book, I read something from you over at the Wall Street Journal about 3 months ago, looking at some of the trend lines with both natural immunity, vaccination efforts, things of that nature, where you boldly predicted you thought the country was on the brink of hitting a herd immunity threshold, if I remember correctly, and kind of politely, you've been a little bit more direct recently, I've seen, and he has certainly deserved it. But initially, I thought it was kind of a polite, hey, question of Anthony Fauci, why aren't we factoring natural immunity into any of our herd immunity calculations? And now, lo and behold, since Rochelle Walensky over there at CDC had an ominous feeling about the future, we've seen cases go down in America collectively about 80% since she issued that warning. So Marty, have we hit our herd immunity threshold here in the States? Marty, thank you for joining us today on the show. All right, take care.
Thanks so much, Steve, and thanks for your work as well.
Yeah, you bet. Take care, man. God bless. Appreciate it. Marty's segment on the show here brought to you by our friends. Speaking of more preventative natural remedies, how about Omega XL? This is what I take, backed by 35 years of clinical research every day to battle inflammation. It's kind of my post-workout recovery. The guys will tell you they don't hear me come in a lot of days anymore complaining and moaning about I'm sore with this and sore with that. Today was even leg day. You guys didn't even know that, did you? It was even leg day today. Didn't come in, didn't say a word. Why? Because I use products like this. And if you get an injury, like Todd, you had that with your back last week, go see a doctor, go get an injury treated. But if you're dealing with something chronic, that's usually inflammation, that's that nagging stiffness, achiness, soreness in certain sensitive areas like the knee, shoulder, backs, or you only have one back, I'm guessing, or your hip flexor if you're me. That's where a product like Omega XL comes in. If you want to give it a shot right now, they're offering buy one bottle, get one for free when you go to omegaxl.com/Steve. That's omegaxl.com/Steve, or give them a call at 800-844-4888. Aaron, I'm curious your thoughts on this conversation as somebody married to a nurse working in the healthcare system.
Yeah, and she's not in a bedside role anymore. She's more of a she's got a better view, an overview. She's an inpatient care coordinator. And one of the things that I hear the most after a long, hard day is just how broken things are. Just the illogical way in which resources are used. And it does boil down to the sick care thing. I mean, the number of folks who, okay, see ya, you're fixed for now, you feel better for now, but we know are going to be in a week, a month, if not just a little bit longer. That's not health care. You're not healthy. You're still sick. You're still broken. You're just kind of doing maintenance, but not preventative maintenance. The entire system, is broken, and the way things are taught are broken. And yeah, that's something that definitely resonates, and I hear about that a lot firsthand.
We'll come back, hour 2. We continue our look on fake news or not, going through our best-selling book, Faucian Bargain, with the Wuhan lab chapter. Some serendipitous timing there. We'll get into that here next. Back with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todders and Aaron McIntyre. All of you, let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. That's steve@stevedeace.com. That's how you can email the show, DEACE. Also, look for us on Facebook, MeWe, Parler, Gab. Look for me, Steve Deace, there. Follow me on Twitter, @Steve Deace Show. And if you're looking for clips of the show, go to rumble.com/Steve Deace Show. We're also looking for you. If you're a podcast listener and you haven't done these things, please smash that subscribe button for us. Don't literally smash it. It's an expression. All it means to aggressively click. And then also leave us a 5-star review if you haven't done those things for us already. Please do so. And thank you to the multitudes of you who have. I am remiss. We ran out of time to get to this in the opening segment of the show, but I need to mention it now. I don't have, unfortunately, because of what it takes to put this show together, and I need a life. I don't have a lot of time to sample long form a lot of my colleagues here in conservative media, even a lot of the people I work with here at the Blaze. I kind of keep up on what a lot of our colleagues, peers, and friends are doing via social media interactions. And then if I see something I definitely think is worth my time long form, I can then kind of filter out and devote the time to it. But between family and then mentally I have to get away from this with other pursuits just to not go crazy and end up on a water tower with a high-powered rifle or a postal uniform that says disgruntled as a name tag. All right, I got to do frivolous things like play some MLB The Show, look at college football preview mags, just to be a guy named Steve every now and then, okay? But we made an announcement today that I'm going to make the time to be a consumer of this content. Our new friend Jason Whitlock. This has been much rumored. It is official today. He is joining Blaze Media. He's already here as writing for us, but he's going to start a new daily program in July. We've even built a new office in Nashville where Jason lives, which gives us an excuse to go down there because we'd all love that place. But I am beyond excited about this because dude gives zero, and I mean zero. Dude, zero isn't a kind enough, adequate enough number. Think of all the highest negative integer that you can fathom, and that is how many F's Jason Whitlock gives. Okay, and I'm in. I know all three of us to varying degrees are very excited about this. But the column, and Aaron, you referenced it today in your montage, the column that he wrote. It's going to be linked up here today on all my social media networks. The column Jason wrote announcing this, and just the history lesson and the philosophy and the things that he put in there is just cash money, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to this.
Amen.
This is not a guy that's going to fire squirt guns or spitballs at the spirit of the age. Dude is coming heavily armed. And that's why I tweeted at him earlier today. Just remember, brother, no wasted ammo. Aaron, you have any thoughts?
I can't wait for this. And honestly, I know I've said privately, the market, we talk about where is the market for truth. If a show like ours can't find that out eventually, ultimately, for whatever reason, I think a program and a personality like Jason will be able to. And I'll leave it at that. I think this has the chance to really make not just waves within conservative circles, what's left of America. I think this thing of any new venture announced over the last maybe year and a half or so, I think of all of those, I think this one has the biggest chance to make a real difference. So I'm very excited about that.
Makes you really, really proud to work at the Blaze, because in his column, I'm paraphrasing him, but he basically said, I was looking for a place to work where every single day, without getting side-eyed, I could let the lion out of its cage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I came to the Blaze to do that. And they said, hell yeah, let's do this. So cool.
Now Jason is going to lead with his faith, and he's going to play the Jesus card promptly. So therefore, thoughts and prayers to the Blaze Media social media team. On the one hand, we can't afford to lay any of you off, I'm guessing. You're all going to be needed. Things were difficult enough between Crowder, Daniel Horowitz, who make this show, which is, are we still in that one site who will not be named detention? I don't even know.
No, should have at least 2 minutes of today's show up there today. You think I'm being
I know.
Yeah.
The guy from Johns Hopkins is not smart enough for the algorithm engineers over at that site who will not be named. But if you were concerned, man, I just don't know if there's going to be enough work around here, and if I could get late, nope. Adding Jason Whitlock, thoughts and prayers to the social media team over at the Blaze. Really hope you all love those conversations with Facebook fact checkers and everybody's science teams and unaccountable and non-disclosed accountability systems. In fact, you might be looking at some overtime, I would guess. You're going to be really busy in the social media department here beginning in July, even busier than you currently are here at Blaze Media. All right, let's get to Fake News or Not, brought to you by a brand new partner to the program, Hartford Gold. You know, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has noticed the state of things are changing economically. We're now talking about, 5% inflation? That's what the Biden administration is owning up to, that we could be looking at a 5% rise in inflation. If that's what they're owning up to, then what are we really looking at? Well, one thing we know we're looking at, highest inflationary increase in food and energy prices since 1982. That's more than a decade before Aaron, our producer, who is now officially dubbed legendary, according to the Mucky Mucks here at the Blaze, that is a decade before this legend was born. Okay? And the spending ain't going away anytime soon. That's why now more than ever, it is recommended to diversify with gold and silver, and the gold company you can trust is American Hartford Gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA, and they make it easy. They're the highest rated firm in the country with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. You call them right now, they'll give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. They'll add on $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Don't wait. Call them now at 866-959-3011. Again, that's 866-959-3011. Or if you want to make it even simpler, text Steve, my first name, text Steve to 65532. Text Steve to 65532. All right, let's get to Fake News or Not. We are continuing our look and series through our best-selling book, Faucian Bargain, the most powerful and dangerous bureaucrat in American history. We did not plan it this way. When we began this series, I mean, think back to when we start this series now. We're in the second month of it.
Well, we're in chapter 7 plus a conclusion, so 2 months, yeah.
When we started this series 2 months ago, if I would have told you that we would openly now be discussing, openly, I mean, it was just a couple weeks ago that we were discussing this in the show on Code, yeah. All right? Kind of dancing around to the topic.
Yes.
But that we would openly and blatantly in every major media sector in the West now be openly discussing the idea that the virus at the very least All right, so we've been telling you about Rough Greens for a while here on the program. This is that little supplement powder that has all the good stuff taken out of your pet's food for mass distribution and production. The vitamins, minerals, nutrients, etc. Same thing happens to us with the food we eat. That's why we take so many supplements these days. Well, now your pet has one. It's called Rough Greens. In fact, I was leaving today. I told Noah, hey, I didn't have a chance to put Rough Greens in the dog's dish. So when I fed him this morning, I forgot. So if he doesn't eat his food, just mix the Rough Greens in there because then you'll know he eats it. Now, maybe you don't know, though, if your dog will like this powder when it gets mixed into the food that they love. Here's one way to find out. How about we give you that 14-day Jumpstart bag, you know, the one we told you to try to see if you don't see a difference in your pet in 2 weeks or less? Well, how about we give that to you for free to find out if your pet likes it? You'll just pay for the shipping, but the bag is free if you go to roughgreens.com. RUFF, that's how it's spelled, for roughgreens.com, or go give them a call at 833-ROUGH-DOG, 833-ROUGH-DOG, or roughgreens.com. That 14-day Jumpstart bag is free for you to give it a shot. You just pay for the shipping. All right, let's get to Pop Culture Tuesday when we look at the intersection between pop culture and conservatism. And this week, we're going to be talking about a documentary, Aaron, that you originally recommended that is airing on Netflix now called Sons of Sam. I watched this last week. I was enthralled. I mean, I thought it was exceedingly well done. This documentary takes us back to the summer of 1977, one of the more infamous serial killings in American history, the Son of Sam murders. All right. And, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. Bernard, what's his name? The guy, the killer.
I can't remember.
Are we serious? Well, you guys got Google. Somebody
David,
look it up.
I am.
Huh?
David, you mean?
David
the main
Berkowitz, thank you.
Hi.
David Berkowitz, holy cow, was that a senior moment. And you're, what, 27?
I don't think his name was Bernard.
Okay. Bernard, I had no idea. Did I watch the wrong show?
Something started with a B. All right.
Bernard.
Something started with a B. Anyway, I was close.
Finding a win in any situation.
They got the internet on computers now. All right. So David Berkowitz was convicted of several murders, basically going up to people in cars, New York City's form of a lover's lane, and just shooting him in cold blood. Not everybody he shot was killed. In fact, one guy had a bullet in his head and survived. He's in the documentary. But this became one of the more infamous serial killing sprees in American history. Part of it because of the city that it was in, obviously, and the amount of media and everything else that is populated there. So I was aware of what Son of Sam was, and I even heard the name David Berkowitz, which obviously 5 minutes ago I forgot. But I had no idea of the theory that he had not acted alone. Nor did I know they even reopened the investigation. And I think it was Queens actually officially ruled that they don't believe that he acted alone. And that Berkowitz actually did interviews later on in the 90s and early 2000s where he admitted he did not act alone. This documentary is seen through the lens of a reporter. And it's fascinating. They tell you his story that he grew up in a staunchly Catholic family, altar boy. So he had a very strong sense of good and evil. And he's convinced that Berkowitz was attached to a satanic cult. And even goes to a park in New York, this really desolate park, and finds evidence of rituals and satanic imagery and things of that nature there. And that the police largely wanted to ignore this because they just wanted to convict Berkowitz and move on and claim a win and not deal with the fact that there was something systemically wrong within this small community of adolescents, basically, or 20-somethings in the city of New York. Several of the other people that were alleged to have been involved with Berkowitz in these killings end up dying like very questionable, mysterious deaths. It's almost like a movie, right?
Yeah.
Except this is these people's real stories. The very end, we won't spoil it. You got to the very end.
Yeah.
That kind of hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The very end will definitely make you wondering if Rod Serling wrote this. Okay. So absolutely hang on for the very end. And I won't even, you couldn't pay me to spoil it, because I just think it's so well done that I don't want to rob people in our audience of that experience if they're going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Especially because it comes on the heels of what I am going to ruin. The end before the end. Right? So the really good end, we're not going to ruin. We're just going to tell you, though, stay to the very end.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But there's an end before the end. And this is what I was fascinated by. Because here you have a guy, this reporter, who's clearly influenced by his Catholic upbringing. And so he thinks he is, maybe he doesn't see it this way. He views it as journalistic instinct. But what I see is a guy that has at least some level of spiritual discernment, that is connecting dots and seeing things that people who lack that in an increasingly secularized age, just, they're not, that pilot light's not on. They're just looking at ballistics and forensics, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And witness testimony. So they're not seeing a meta narrative here. They're not even bothering to delve into Berkowitz's motivations, because they just want to get this killer off the streets and make people feel safe in New York City again. So this guy, this independent journalist, sees these things. He ends up getting some major media gigs to investigate it. Writes a best-selling book. He is a frequent contributor on talk shows like Geraldo Rivera back in the 80s and things of that nature, talking about this during the era that has often been panned as the Satanic Panic. Where there was so many issues going on in the 80s with fears of Satanists and things of that nature. Except he appears to have, and by Berkowitz's own words in the documentary, he appears to have actually stumbled on a real case of it. And who knows whether Berkowitz committed these murders on his own. He claims he did not. But he doesn't do it in a way where he claims his innocence. That's what's fascinating. He openly tells you the people that he shot and killed. He identifies who they are and says, yeah, I did that.
Well, he was there for all of them. He just said I wasn't the trigger man.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Correct. But when someone else was the trigger man, he says, hey, this is somebody I shot. This is not, and he specifies that this is not an attempt to say I didn't do this, or I was just there for all of them and I didn't. No, he owns up to pulling the trigger on several of these cases. Okay. But he says he wasn't alone the entire time. And he didn't pull the trigger on all of them. In fact, in one of the cases they delve into, it seems pretty impossible that he's the trigger man because human beings can't be in two places at once, right? Okay. What I find fascinating, though, is when they get to the end, I think the producers of this documentary don't know what to do with what they've uncovered. And they kind of just go with this spirit of the age-y, there's good and evil in all of us. Doesn't necessarily have to be like an external force battling it out for our affections and attentions, but that we just kind of succumb to these things. And there's something, I mean, they're right that there's something internally wrong with us, right? We're all sinners, right? But I don't get the gist that that's what they're communicating, that they're just saying that that just some people just, via osmosis, randomly, just succumb to these terrible impulses without any external stimuli. I was fascinated that the filmmakers played that card at the end, given what they just showed us over the last almost 4 hours. And, again, without spoiling the ending, what they're about to show us at the very, very end at the exact same time. Did you guys pick up on that as well?
Yeah, but I think it's the entire effort is an homage to that sort of tension, because I told you, I texted you after watching the first two, and we spoke a little bit yesterday. I'm thinking after the first two, how can you not believe that this is an open shut case of multiple people involved?
So you haven't even gotten to the part where Berkowitz is going to speak out now on camera and
None
say
of
there
it.
were more. Okay.
But it's just so obvious. The letters that were written by Berkowitz, the name dropping, the people from Yonkers, the satanic symbols, it was just so obvious. Then you watch the third episode. And it goes from, it just happens that the Maury Terry, the author.
Thank you. I left out his name. Forgive me.
That he happened to be from that area, which is also part of the reason why he was so obsessed. He knew in this letter, he knew the area where this park was, where these satanic rituals were. And so there, it seems like it's so tight. Then the third episode, where he goes beyond just the localized crime, and he's fearlessly reaching as far as he can go into these London origins of what's it called, the people, or the purpose, or whatever it is.
The Progress Church.
The Progress
Church, yes.
And he's going all to California, and he's trying to connect dots with Manson and with David Berkowitz. And this is he's trying
because they both. The reason why is that they both had some form of contact with this Progress Church. That is indisputable.
Yeah.
That's a matter of record. It's just a matter of whether they intersected in that in that contact or not.
So he's trying to connect dots on a global scale and in ways that any investigator would do, and sometimes he comes up short. There's this case of this Hollywood producer of the Cotton Club that was involved in all kinds of kinky stuff, but as it turns out, it really didn't have anything to do with devil worship, and he was just killed because of a money issue gone bad. So that ruined his credibility a little bit, and a lot of people wanted his credibility ruined, including cops. Gee, I don't know anything about that at all. So there's this tension of he had it in a way that a lot more people had, but he wanted all of it, and that was going to get tough to get for anybody else. So there at the end, it just kind of leaves you with the fact that, yeah, it's clear that there might be a lot more there, but there also might not be. And this guy goes to his deathbed in a way that everybody tipped his hat to, and they basically admit in what they say, I clearly want it. I'm willing to go a lot of way down that road with him, but not all the way, because I just can't. I'm not able to see with the eyes and ears and hear that he has.
Yeah, no real alternative explanation for what Morey uncovers is offered.
No.
They just basically don't want to believe it is true.
Exactly.
And so there's this cognitive dissonance at their end, and then they show you the next scene basically confirms everything that they just wanted to tell you. They don't really kind of buy. I was fascinated by that.
The operative word, and then you hit on it in a different way, Steve, that Todd just said, is can't.
Mm-hmm.
The police and the authorities involved, convinced that Berkowitz was the lone killer, they could not believe that it was anything else other than he was the lone killer, because of the implications of what that would entail if it was indeed true. It wasn't a matter of, do we believe that demons exist or that this Satanism exists? It was the implications of what we're dealing with here if we admit that. Because after all, the mayor of New York has an election to win. After all of these police officers had these commendations and promotions given to them after catching this fiend. After all, fill in the blank. That was the operative word. Cannot believe. Can't. I just can't. I just can't with all of this. Guys, does that remind you of anything? Whether it's fiends, whether it's fiends wearing our own uniforms, or whether it's people trying to play it down the middle of the road here, we just can't believe that things are the way that they are. Voldemort is not back. He's not back, as Cornelius Fudge says in the fifth Harry Potter movie.
Yeah. To your point, replace Berkowitz with coronavirus.
Yep.
I was thinking about that the whole time.
Or anything.
Or anything
else.
Yes.
You know, we've been warning you about home title theft on the show for a couple of years as well. This is where cyber thieves remove you from your home's title, because that's where it's kept online. They hack in there, sign their way onto a quick claim deed as you, and then they take all your equity, leave you with evictions, foreclosures, late payment notices. And we've been warning you that it's where data breaches come in, that expose your basic information, that make you vulnerable to this, because now they have what it requires to log online as you. And that recently happened to Facebook. That put 500 million accounts exposed to cyber thieves. Don't let this happen to you, home title theft. Take advantage of 30 free days of protection during this high risk breach from our friends at Home Title Lock. If you go to HometitleLock.com and use the promo code radio. That's HometitleLock.com. Use the promo code radio. Get 30 free days of protection during this high-risk breach, again, with the promo code radio at HometitleLock.com. So then, guys, the people who made this documentary, and again, we're not going to spoil the last act because it is worth seeing in real time play out for yourself. But since we know what is in that last act, and we know what was in all the acts that led up to the act before that last act, where they basically punk out at the end. What would, if we could put the Wonder Woman lasso of truth around the filmmakers, what would they say was the reason they did that, do you think? Because I think it gives us a window into the soul of what we're up against in the culture. I can be confronted with this and still ignore it. What would they say?
Lasso of truth. I think they would say what I just said. I can't. I just can't go there.
Because the consequences of opening that up,
correct,
and therefore what it does to the rest of my worldview is a cost I'm just not willing to pay.
Correct.
I think he's probably right. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, particularly since the evidence of other people involved. You know, these guys, running away from something all the way to the middle of Dakota, and two brothers dying that Berkowitz grew up with and was part of these dark rituals with them. There's no denying that. They're dead in very ominous circumstances. Of course there's there. Of course there is.
And I just want to say, it was some Friday night, and I was getting down, ready to play NCAA Football 14, and I always watch something, while I'm doing that. And one of our listeners, I think the name is China Joe's COVID Emporium, said, hey, right when I was starting to look, said, hey, you need to check this documentary out. So I want to give them credit.
It's really well done. It's called Sons of Sam. Sons plural. Sons of Sam. It's a 4-part documentary. on Netflix. We all three would highly, highly recommend. All right, we're going to stick around for the overtime for Blaze TV subscribers. Look at your poll results, what you think is really behind the now confirmed UFO phenomenon. We will get into that in the overtime for our subscribers. For the rest of you, have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow, noon to 2, right after Glenn Beck. Until then, John 3:17.